now?
Okay, second. Share screen, I suppose, isn't it? Can anybody see that?
No. No.
I think it's just pause. It'll start again in a second. Okay, I don't know, did anybody see that? Did that work, that share? No, Oliver's shaking his head. Okay.
It
Can
did
you hear
work.
me?
It did work, Collins. Yeah.
Pardon?
But the sound was off.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, well, I'll just crack on with the service. There's something else going on here in the background, sorry. Hang on, let's kill that one. All right, can you hear me now, okay, everybody? Yeah, okay, I see Pat shaking her head. At least she can hear me. All right. Well, the title of my service today, and I'll just try and share this if I can. Let me know. Put up your thumbs if you can see it. If not, that's fine. Host disabled participant screen sharing, Tara. I'm the host, sorry. I'm the host, yeah. Okay, so I'll try and share screen. You are the host now. Okay. Can maybe if you unmute and let me know if you can see it.
No,
Can anyone see it?
no, I cannot see.
No? Okay. I'll just try something. One
But
second.
I can see now.
Can you see now, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I can't see it. I'll bring it up now if I can. All right. From the beginning. Okay. So my title of my service, now it sounds a bit technical and long-winded as usual, says you, but it's shifting the Cain Abel paradigm subject to object. And I would, it's just a few songs I had chosen there. Can everyone still see everything, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so the reading there, if you wish to go to the kingdom, then you must obtain a document of surrender from Satan. Without getting a document that proves you have loved even Satan, you cannot go to him. That is why the Unification Church works the way it does. Even though we could treat those who oppose, we have to love them, which is an astonishing way of doing things. We have to love our enemies. We have to pray that they receive blessings. There is no other way. Unless Cain and Abel become one, there will be no restoration, and we will not be able to return to our parents. If the fallen archangel accuses God because God is still God, the archangel has no choice to follow the laws he established. God is the absolute being. Therefore, although the archangel has fallen, God still has to govern all created things in accordance with the laws and rules he established. This means that however God intended to relate to the archangel before his fall, God has to continue to relate to him that way after his fall. That is why the archangel says to God, "You are supposed to love me until the resurrection period and beyond." Satan accuses God, grabs him firmly, and holds on, saying, "I know you are God, the eternal and immortal subject being and the great supervisor of the creation of heaven and earth. You are the original being of truth, the original being of love, and the original being of principle. So in accordance with your laws and principles, you cannot change. For this reason, even though I have fallen, you do not have to practice the principles you established. So, as a being of principle, you have no way to bring your sons and daughters to the original ideal world without loving the fallen angel. The plan you made for me, the archangel, before the fall is that your children cannot enter the heavenly kingdom unless they love me and you yourself love me. Even though I have fallen, you still must follow that principle. Therefore, you should love me. If you do not, you cannot be the true God." So as the 1970s approached, it was still a turbulent time for the world. North and South Korean discord threatened to flare up into another war, and the international situation was volatile. Communism was expanding across the globe on many fronts. Knowing the inhumane brutality of communist governments from our personal experience, my husband and I launched a very successful educational initiative called Victory Over Communism, VOC. Ours was the only voice in the world to clearly explain the fallacies of its materialistic and atheistic theory while offering a God-centered counter-proposal. VOC strengthened the resolve and understanding of South Koreans, and it had a huge impact soon after in Japan, turning back its far left-wing factions through peaceful means. At that critical moment, my husband and I once again urged our members, especially the women, to take action. Our Heavenly Parent knows the power of women. Our movement did not truly begin until our couple's holy wedding, because we are a family movement and it takes a husband and wife to create a family. My husband is the world's foremost champion of women as the moral leaders of the family and society. So me or this, what are you looking at? This, the share at the moment. Okay, you're looking at me again, yeah? Yeah, okay, great. So I wanted to talk about the traditional sort of paradigm that we have in our church when it comes to understanding restoration, which was Cain and Abel, and it has a bad reputation over the years. Now, I've talked about this before, and if I have and you're a bit bored by it, apologies, but I guess everyone comes back, many people come back to the same 4 or 5 handful of themes when they're given services, and they kind of give a new spin on it. But I felt in the time we're living in at the moment, and when we see True Mother's rallies of hopes and the efforts that she's making to try to bring unity throughout the world, that it's maybe nice to go back and have a look at some of our first principles about unity and how we create unity in the context of in the past and restoration, and now here in the future, and we're building the channel book. And I think unity is still an important theme. I'm sure you'll all agree. And we see even splits in our own church, and we see in America what's happening, and in Europe, and in Brexit, and all these things that are happening throughout the world, and between black and white people and people of different religions. We see there's a lot of hatred and people trying to benefit from the division. So just in our own church, what was the principle saying about how to bring unity? Well, I always come back in my head to the Cain Abel sort of stuff, and that language even to some people is a bit kind of incendiary, and they get post-traumatic stress thinking about it from their time on formula course and stuff. But for me, anyway, at this stage, looking back on it, the principle taught us, you know, that the four fallen natures are failure to see from God's viewpoint, and how we resolve that is to love Adam or Abel from God's viewpoint, leaving your proper position, and you restore that through receiving God's love through Abel. Reversal of dominion, submit to Abel, multiplication of evil, you learn God's way from Abel. So this isn't a blindly sort of following paradigm. You don't just, maybe in the past there was an element, a big element of that, because we were in the Old Testament age, and we had to indemnify, basically, through Father's course, he indemnified all of human history and biblical history. But for me, it's about love. It's about learning, particularly we say even in the family, in the four-position foundation, the four great realms of heart and the three great loves. You have to, I believe, learn to love your spouse, your children, and your spouse and your children, for example, can be in those able positions to you many times, and sometimes you might be in that position. So you have to be flexible, and it becomes more of a subject-object relationship. In the past as well, the important thing for me about Cain and Abel was it was actually about restoring the fallen nature. That was one of the most important things, making a foundation of faith to receive the Messiah, through making that unity, and then through unity with God, and then the foundation of substance was unity with the Messiah, which was represented often by an Abel figure, or even, of course, by your spouse when you go to the blessing. That's the highest, for me, the highest form, when you go to try to restore your tribe, which is something that's ongoing. But in the context of today, of course, we have true mothers, our ultimate Abel figure, and true father and spirit world. True parents are working in heaven and earth to try and bring unity with brothers and sisters throughout the world, and they're still working in God's providence. There's a lot of kind of debate at the moment about, oh, should people vote for Trump in America or not? Is he a good person? Why should we vote for him, even if he's, you know, supposedly on God's side, standing up for freedom of religion, standing up for family values, even though he himself, of course, is far from that as an individual. But I guess there's always two, well, in the principle in the past, there was two choices, a very, very sort of stark. You had to choose one or the other. It was very, you couldn't just choose a middle way, because that's not the way the restoration worked. But so I wanted to just expand a little bit on that, and I wanted to show a few slides, but I guess it's going to be very difficult. So I'll just maybe pull from a couple of the slides and not dwell too much on it. I was thinking about Marxism as well, and how this is very topical at the moment with the Black Lives Matter, who are supposed to have been influenced by the Marxist sort of, and the cultural Marxist idea, which we see is proliferated all throughout our universities and all throughout society, and it's in the education system, it's everywhere. And you know, in our church, now that we've kind of matured and we're trying to build our own institutions, our own sort of, you know, government, our own nation, it's good to reflect on the different political philosophies that are out there, to see, are any of them compatible with, you know, our theories and what we would like to implement and what your father has been teaching. And when you look at Marxism and this dialectical thinking, as it's called, you can see that it's totally like basically Satan's principle, Satan's word, where you're trying to there's a thesis, there's an antithesis, and the one is trying to destroy the other. It's not trying to come to a synthesis. It's not trying to come to a unification or a unity. It's trying to destroy the other. And Marx, he said that things developed through the dialectic, but he only dealt with social problems. He did not cite a single example that could indicate that natural phenomena developed through the struggle of opposites. Thus, in order to compensate for that weakness in Marxist thought, Engels studied the natural sciences and compiled his conclusions in the books Dialectics of Nature and Anti-During. In the latter book, Engels announced he had reached the conclusion that nature is the proof of dialectics. So, if, however, one carefully examines the natural phenomena cited by Engels, one finds that what is occurring in those phenomena is not struggle, but rather harmonious action centered on a common purpose. And a more detailed explanation of this is given in Dr. Lee's book, The End of Communism. And so nature cannot be said to be proof of dialectics. Instead, it is proof of give and receive action. And such struggles do exist, but they're only among human beings in human society. They are, however, a result of the fall. So we can observe this struggle, but mainly it's in human society and as a result of the fall. The ideal and what we observe in nature is actually proof of give and receive action, which is totally different to this dialectical thing that Marx and Engels described, and that's from the Essentials of Unification Thought, page 51, Unification Thought Institute. One of the reasons our movement was so powerful and made such a foundation for true parents to be able to be accepted on so many levels in politics in America, for example, and even in Korea, was because of the fight against communism, the fight against Marxism in South America as well. So our movement, Dr. Lee and True Parents, were able to come up with a comprehensive ideology that could defeat this Marxist dialectical thinking. And it's based around this give and receive action, or what I interpret to be subject and object cooperation. That things cannot exist without this give and take action. So this is very important today, because a lot of people, young people, and even not so young people, anyone who's involved in politics who doesn't know the principle, as far as I can see, is being indoctrinated, heavily indoctrinated into this cultural Marxist thinking, and all the ideologies that are flowing from that, such as this gender ideology, gender fluidity, and promoting homosexuality and free sex. So these are all contrary to the ideal, to God's ideal of the ideal family and the three blessings. So it's important that we understand and what is communism, what is Marxism, but the problem we have, I guess, is we know a lot of our, especially elder campaigners, know and have fought on the front lines against communism, and can see its influence today and know how bad it is. But the problem is, we wouldn't start from here today if we were entering politics from the way things are at the moment. Who do you support today? Who do you follow? It's very hard as a young person to know when you have a choice between Trump and Biden, or Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn, or the EU or the UK, or between Simon Coveney and Leo Varadkar or Micheál Martin. They all look like they're the same, you know, or maybe equally indoctrinated by the same nonsense. So where are you supposed to find an Abel sort ideology or figure or you know, idea to follow? So that's I suppose what got me thinking, and for me as well, it brought me back to this idea of the Satanic King dynasty, right? And this is was it Reverend Ann's 40-day workshop, which I've never had the privilege to attend. But I heard many people coming back giving reports of this 40-day workshop. I don't know, was James smiling there? Was he at that workshop? But it mightn't have been a great experience for everybody. But I think he treated the participants like they were in Hungnam or something like that, or in some sort of a labor camp, and tried to recreate that sort of environment, which doesn't sound very pleasant. But I suppose if you can learn from that and take away from that, it might be. But I was lucky; I didn't have to attend it. But I got some secondhand information back. But the thing that stuck with me was this idea of the Satanic King dynasty. And I understand that to be, you know, true parents often expressed world power dynamics in providential terms, like Cain and Abel. Abel would have been USA, Adam, Korea, Eve, Japan. And so the reality is the divine principle can be used as a tool for solving, or at least understanding, world problems. So this idea of the Satanic King dynasty, what is it? Like, obviously we're not living in the ideal. to the degree that we feel we're in the channel of God and we realize the ideal, we can say we're living in the kingdom of heaven. But even, you know, the most pious of us would concede that we haven't restored our tribe. Most of us, we don't feel the joy that we should feel every day, but still we're on the path and we're building. We are building, you know, we are trying our best and trying to do our responsibility. So for me, this idea, I think, of the Satanic King dynasty was an expression, like the Greek philosophers long were talking about what is the Republic. It's an expression of the ideal society and how none of the kind of historic kingdoms or empires or even the current ones have fulfilled this ideal society. So, and I think there's a spectrum, you know, of Satanic King dynasty. If you look at which is closer to God, which is Cain, which is Abel, obviously some of these SKDs, as I call them, are closer to heaven or to God or to Abel than others. If they believe, you know, if God is in the Constitution, if they practice democracy, if they allow freedom of religion, these are all tests for any sort of country or empire. And God uses the ones, or has used the ones in the past that have been closer to his ideal or to his providence and restoration, like the European Union, the United States, Great Britain, even the Republic of Ireland, or the Republic of Korea, the People's Republic of China. These are all Satanic King dynasties on a spectrum. You know, if you look, imagine from left to right, you know, they're all on a spectrum of Satanic King dynasties. And do we feel better or more powerful when we can identify or be justified or hang the flag of a particular country, you know, hold that flag in our hands and say, you know, I'm Irish or I'm Chinese or I'm Korean or I'm Japanese or I'm British? Do I feel like I'm closer to God because I can identify with this empire or this past or this tradition? Do I feel more powerful if I can identify with that Satanic King dynasty? And I think the point of Reverend Anne was, at the end of the day, it's still a Satanic King dynasty. It might be closer to God, you know, and I'm not saying that our Channel Book is perfect by any means, or that we've established, you know, such a wonderful kingdom in our movement, but we are striving for that. I think that's not that we're striving for, but actually God is striving for this nation. And ultimately, we can be in that nation, but if we fulfill our responsibility, it doesn't really matter that so much. Everybody has to fulfill, we all have to try to fulfill our God-given responsibility in as much as we can. So, like True Mother's advice in Albania in 2019, when she came to Europe and Albania, and it was the day she spoke on the day that Albania the Albanian had been rejected as a member of the European Union. The decision had been made that they would not be allowed to join the European Union. They were devastated. They were very sad. But she emphasized to them not to be sad about this, not to be trying to be part of this institution, that it wasn't going to solve all their problems. Even though my father in the past has emphasized that nations have to work together, and particularly smaller nations, and it's good for them to be involved in blocks for that reason, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, they're all still Satanic King dynasties, you know, so it doesn't matter if you're, of course it can have advantages to be part of that, but ultimately it's how much your nation is following in supporting true parents, attending true parents at this time. So we've seen the protest movements at the moment. You know, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago in one of our services. It got a bit heated, I think, near the end, when we were talking about, you know, I'm talking about protest movements as in Black Lives Matter, Antifa, you know, we see political parties with extreme left-wing views or right-wing views for that matter. We see protests in Dublin, anti-mask protests. And, you know, so it's people want to be part of these big international movements. They feel security, they feel safety. And again, these are often you hear the call coming from some of our members, why aren't we doing more for, you know, the issue of racial inequality or economic inequality, or why are we always on the fence? Why don't we come down on it on one side or the other as a movement. Now, of course, as members individually, we're all involved in different things. Some of us might even be, because of the way the world is organized today, invariably we have to be even involved with a lot of left-wing causes or left-wing movements, or have friends who are involved. And you know, how do we function within that? Do we try to show the best example, you know, within that sort of constraint, or do we just tell them, look, you are all going the wrong way, you have to stop? You know, is that the way to do it? Like, is this dialectical thinking then, by doing that, by going in and condemning people and saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that, that's wrong, you know, he's wrong, it's evil, it's or the Fine Gael is wrong, or you know, how do you actually get involved in society if you can't, if you're just one individual lone voice crying in the wilderness? I mean, is it justifiable theologically to go in and work, or providentially or whatever, as part of your mission, to work with these groups and to try to show good example and try to educate them, even though you are a little bit compromised by that whole activity? I mean, is it okay to get down and dirty, or do you have to be pure, ethically pure the whole time? You see, this is the problem. So this is again what I'm saying. There's a, a spectrum on the satanic king dynasty sort of idea, but at the same time, you've got to try to move your sphere of influence, the people you're with, closer to God's ideal, because you are in the able position. You know, unless you're working with other members, of course, but you are the one that has God's truth, that knows the Messiah. So usually, in most situations, you are the one that can bring people closer to God and bring solutions. That's our mission. I mean, I don't need to lecture anyone else about that. That's what we've been doing all our lives, and we've found ways to work our families. We've found ways to be involved in different causes, and it can be tough, even in a job or in a sporting organization, to say, oh, well, I disagree with that. I'm a family person, and I don't agree with those relationships, homosexual, or I don't. Of course, I don't discriminate, but I don't want to be part of this promotional campaign that you have for diversity and inclusion when it doesn't include my values. You know, so you have to try to find ways to work without losing all your foundation in society or the respect that people have. But at the same time, there are certain things, there are certain battles that you have to fight. Just it's important, I suppose, to know through prayer which are the ones that are worth fighting. You know, what is the hill that I'm going to die on? Which one is important enough for me to lose my job on, or my career, or my position, or whatever that is, whatever you're trying to achieve, you know? So sometimes we have to keep our mouths shut, and that's tough. So I just wanted to finish with the message of hope from our Heavenly Parents' holy community, and this desire to be part of something greater. Well, I would like myself to always feel like I'm proud of our HPHC, our Heavenly Parents' holy community, and I see True Mother do these rallies of hope. I don't know how many people stayed up late last weekend to watch that. It was, for me, it was a struggle but actually Spirit World woke me up, and that was great. Combination of Spirit World and having to go to the loo at 2:30 in the morning, just after Jose Manuel Barroso spoke, or in the middle of his speech. Interesting to see him. I believe he's quite a strong Catholic, but he's got a lot of baggage there working with the EU, and also I think he's involved with a major bank, Goldman Sachs. So, you know, this is the type of people you're working with. Other people say, oh, I think people from the left and the right would call that guy a total, you know, dirtbag or a satanic or whatever, you know. But the reality is, he does have a faith. He is a Catholic. He is influenced by True Mother, you know. He does like her message, and you know, he's trying to bring unification. Maybe we can't agree with all the core values of the European Union, and we shouldn't, or what he represents. But at the same time, he is following his able figure, True Mother, to the best of his ability. He's creating good PR for our movement. So, and how we use that, and how this is a resource that's been given to us by God and by heaven, just like when we get endorsed by a president or a vice president. you know, or a big minister or Pope or somebody. So I think these rallies of hope, you know, of course, how influential they are where we are is difficult to tell. But over time, I believe they can be very influential. And it shows that True Mother is not resting. She's going to use the remaining time that she has on earth to keep promoting the message of true families and true love, and that she is the only begotten daughter. What does that mean, actually, the only begotten daughter? It's another thing I wanted to mention. Dr. Hendricks, Tyler Hendricks, in Master's Seminar, you should check it out if you have a chance, if you haven't already. They're doing now over in Britain, and they're people to come over to broadcast from America, Dr. Hendricks, for example, to help people to do sort of, if they want to give better services or do some pastoral work or whatever. So he was talking about, it's for anybody. You don't have to want to be a pastor, but the content's really precious. So he was talking, he did a question and answer, and he did a little bit about the only begotten daughter. And what does it mean, the only begotten daughter? What's the reaction being in the Christian community to this term, this strange OBD, only begotten daughter term? So he said that, I think it gives an example how we are all potentially only begotten daughters and only begotten sons, and how the only begotten daughter is not really about firstborn. So some people interpret it to be firstborn, but more about the uniqueness and the joy that God and we feel, and we fulfill our potential for the first time, coming to be restored as true sons and daughters, husbands and wives, and unique blessed families and tribes centered on Heavenly Parent and true love. So that was my takeaway from this. Every person who has completed the purpose of creation is thus a unique existence in the cosmos, just like the Buddha is saying, in heaven and on earth, I alone am the honored one. So everyone has this potential to be the only begotten son or daughter. And this is I think, the beauty of this revelation, or this, you know, theology, whatever you want to call it, this message of hope that True Mother is bringing at the moment. It shouldn't be a divisive thing that Christians need to struggle with, or that we need to struggle with, or that she's trying to usurp Father or something. She's not. She's just expanding on the message, and we all should become only begotten sons and daughters from God's point of view. They're all unique, precious, and should become holy and true. And that's what I believe that she's trying to inspire and encourage us to be. So yesterday was the foundation day for the nation of the unified world, the 3rd and the 10th, 2020. It was established in 1988. It's the same day as the unification of Germany. I like that day because it's my dad's birthday as well. So the thing is, with this Channel Go calendar that we have now, the heavenly calendar, I think it'll be celebrated on the 17th of November. So I'm happy about that, because I kind of didn't realize it was on yesterday, or that the calendars had changed the date. So I think it's the 17th of November, excuse me, when we will be celebrating it according to the Channel Go calendar. But I just want to finish with 2 slides here, and I'll just read it, just to commemorate that day and that sort of feeling that this foundation day for the unified nation, the Channel Go nation, which I believe is a precious concept that we're all working towards. Only after securing for God the authority of unified ownership can a unified world that is aligned with the standard of God's heart come into existence. Only when we restore the authority of God's ownership can we move forward to a unified world. One world led by the true parents in heaven and on earth. Based on their foundation, the world's authority of ownership must surely be returned to God's authority of ownership. Even if your mother and father oppose it, because we have arrived at a propitious time when we can offer everything in front of heaven, everyone in the Unification Church must accept this as a tradition. Circumstances are such that when your clan accepts it as a tradition, that clan will be completely liberated. On that basis, you on earth will be in the position of Adam and Eve. All believers in the heavenly world will be in the position of the archangel, and you will become their ancestors. After living on earth and giving birth to children, you will become the grandfathers and grandmothers of thousands of generations, and have thousands of generations of descendants. This is how God's work of opening the gates to the heavenly kingdom will take place, and that's from the Chansung Gong, page 1226 to 1228. And I just want to pray to finish. Or maybe actually you can ask Hobart, would you like to say a prayer, Hobart, just to close? You're muted. Maybe I need to unmute you. Do it. Right. Okay, maybe I'll just finish that. Okay, you're still muted. Okay, Heavenly Parents, we thank you for bringing us together by Zoom again this morning, and we're very happy to welcome another member of our community into the world here in Ireland, Nathaniel Lowe, Dunshaughlin, and we pray for this new child's health and safety, and please help us to welcome many more into our community, and help us to be able to build a community that people want to be part of, that you can fulfill your ideal in, Heavenly Parent, and please protect and keep our true mother healthy, and give her a long life so that we can attend her, and that we can be able to have many of our descendants see her in the flesh before she goes to spirit world with True Father. And please guide us, Heavenly Parents, throughout the rest of this year and in our week as families, as brothers and sisters, that we can help each other in our community, and that you can be proud of us, and that we can try to reach out to more and more people, Heavenly Parent, with the message of hope of our true mother. I want to pray and report this now and offer this service to you. My name is So I don't have an MC, so I'm not sure I'll have to finish. Does anyone have any announcements or anything apart from the obvious new arrival? Anyone hear me? Do I have to unmute or something? Can you unmute? Maybe I'm just James. Hi.
Oh yeah, we heard you all right, huh? I think a nice Sunday service, huh?
Thanks, James. You don't have to say that.
I wouldn't say it unless I thought it, as you know.
I'll take that. Thanks. Yeah.
But just this idea, always people like talking about Cain and Abel, huh? You know, like when in Germany, like when Young Kim came over to take